All right, let's get into it. You've probably seen this thing floating around social media, brain song. The claim is that it can sharpen your mind just by using sound. So the big question we're tackling today is, what's the deal? Is this genuine help, or is it just some really well-packaged hype? Let's find out. I mean, it's a pretty wild idea, isn't it? The thought that you could just pop on some headphones for a few minutes and walk away with better focus, maybe a sharper memory. It really taps into that desire we all have for a quick mental boost. But, can it actually work? And that's the big promise right there. The whole marketing pitch for Brainsong is built around this super simple, very attractive idea. Give us a few minutes of your day and we'll give you back a clearer, more efficient mind. It sounds incredible, maybe a little too incredible, which is exactly why we're going to dig in and take a closer look. Okay, so first up, let's talk about the promise itself. Brainsong is really positioned as this easy fix for that mental fatigue or brain fog that, let's be honest, so many of us feel. So let's break down what you actually get. So at its core, Brainsong is just a collection of digital audio files. But here's what really makes it stand out in today's world. There are no apps to download, no monthly subscriptions to worry about. It's a one-time purchase and you get lifetime access. That simplicity is a huge part of its appeal. Okay, so that's the what. But now for the really interesting part, the how. How in the world is an audio file supposed to tune up your brain for better performance? Well, the entire concept is built on this fascinating idea called neural entrainment. Now, neural entrainment sounds super technical, right? But the core idea is actually something you've probably already experienced. It's all about getting your brain waves, those little electrical pulses firing in your brain, to sync up with a rhythm from the outside world. It's kind of like when you hear a song with a great beat, and you just automatically start tapping your foot. Your brain just naturally wants to fall in line. Brainsong is trying to do that on purpose. The magic trick here, so to speak, is something called binaural beats, and here's how it works. You have to wear stereo headphones. In your left ear, you'll hear a specific tone. In your right ear, you'll hear a slightly different tone. Now, your brain, being the amazing processor that it is, tries to make sense of this difference. And what it does is it creates this third phantom beat that's not actually there. It's this rhythmic pulse that's supposed to gently guide your brain waves. So what's the point of all this? Well, the goal is to get your brain into what's called the gamma brainwave state. Neuroscientists have seen that when we're deep in concentration, really focused on solving a tough problem, our brains are buzzing with these super fast gamma waves. Think of it as peak performance mode for your brain. Brainsong is trying to give you a little nudge in that direction. This all sounds pretty amazing on paper. But now it's time for the reality check. This is where we need to separate the real, hard science from the marketing spin. So let's put the hype to the test. And this comparison right here is so important. On one hand, you have the scientific facts. Yes, neural entrainment is a real thing that scientists study. And yes, gamma waves are absolutely linked to intense focus. But on the other hand, you have the marketing claims. The idea that this process activates something for brain growth, that's just a theory. It's not proven. And probably the biggest point, science is pretty clear that just listening to sounds can't permanently change the way your brain is wired. And this really sums it all up perfectly. Look, people might feel a boost during a session or right after. That short-term benefit is totally plausible. But the idea that this is going to fundamentally rewire your brain for the long haul, that's where neuroscientists are basically saying, whoa, hold on a second. Yeah, and that leads us to a really crucial point. This is not a magic bullet. The results aren't guaranteed because they're so tied to everything else in your life. It's not going to work in a vacuum. If you're not sleeping, if you're stressed out, if your diet's a mess, all that stuff matters a lot. Okay, so now that we've got our expectations in check, let's talk about the practical side. What's using this thing actually like in the real world, day to day? One of its biggest draws is how little time it asks of you. The recommendation is just 12 minutes a day. That's it. We're talking less time than it takes to make and drink a cup of coffee. It's designed to be super easy to fit into your routine. And using it is about as simple as it gets. You find a quiet moment, maybe during meditation or just some downtime. The only real rule is you have to use stereo headphones. That's non-negotiable, because otherwise the whole binaural beats thing just doesn't work. And this is a big one for anyone who's on the fence. They give you a full 90-day money-back guarantee. 90 days. That's 3 months. So you can basically try it out and see if it does anything for you without risking a dime. which is pretty fair. So where does BrainSong fit in with all the other brain-boosting stuff out there? This chart is a great way to see it. You've got your brain training apps, right? Those are active, you're solving puzzles. BrainSong, totally passive. You just sit back and listen. Then you have things like nootropics or smart drugs. Those are pharmacological and can come with potential side effects. BrainSong, super low risk. It really carves out its own little niche of low effort and low risk. All right, we've covered a lot. We've looked at the big promises, the actual science behind it, and what it's like to use it. So let's bring it all together and get to the bottom line. Hype or help? So here's the final verdict, and it's kind of nuanced. Is it a scam? No, not really. The science it's based on is a real thing. But is it a miracle cure that's going to turn you into a genius overnight? Also no. The best way to think about it is as a supportive tool, a way to potentially get a short-term boost in focus, kind of like a cup of coffee or a quick meditation session. And because of that refund policy, it's a very low-risk thing to try for yourself. And we have to end on a really important note here. This is a big one. If you have any kind of diagnosed neurological condition, you absolutely need to talk to your doctor before even thinking about trying something like this. Seriously, that's non-negotiable. So, at the end of the day, the question we should be asking isn't, will this change my brain forever? Because the science says probably not. The real question is for you. Is a simple, low-risk tool that might give you a short-term mental boost, is that something that's worth your time to explore? And that's really what it all boils down to. Thanks for tuning in.